Welcome to the Next Level Human podcast. As a human, you have a job to do. In fact, you have 4 jobs: to earn and manage money, to attain and maintain health and fitness, to build and sustain personal relationships, to find meaning and make a difference. None of these jobs are taught in school, and that is what this podcast is designed to do: to educate us all on living our most fulfilled lives through the mastery of these 4 jobs. I'm your host, Dr. Jade, Teta, and I believe we are here living this life for 3 reasons, and 3 reasons only: to learn, to teach, and to love. In this podcast, I will be learning, teaching, and loving right along with you. I'm grateful to have your company. Here's to our next level. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's show. Excited to have you here today. Today, I want to talk about something that is a pretty amazing and powerful perceptual shift on what makes us humans successful and happy. And so let me frame this up by sort of going through the evolution of what research has really looked at in terms of us humans and our success and happiness. So it used to be thought that intelligence was the thing that if you had a good IQ and you were smart, this intelligence quotient, you would be successful. You would be able to gather the information. You would be able to solve problems, and that this would make you valuable in the workplace. And that then would make you both have material wealth, or gain some degree of finance and worth, materially speaking, money, a home, all those kinds of things, and some status in terms of your career, and that this should equal happiness. And of course, this is a very old model, and we know plenty of people nowadays, right, who are very successful in terms of their intelligence and their career endeavors and make plenty of money, who are miserable and actually don't really have that much status either, or kind of even looked down upon, culturally speaking. And so then we went into a different phase, or an additive phase, we should say. There's no question that IQ is important in terms of success and happiness, being able to be smart, solve problems, be valuable in the workplace. But I think we all could admit it's a very old model to be thinking about, and is, while it probably contributes a little bit, it probably has much less contribution than we used to think. And so then research started delving into, well, there has to be something related to how people interact with other people. So you might be smart, but what if you're just an asshole, right? What if you just don't know how to talk and get along, and or you can't manage your own emotions? And so there was this idea in the research that started to emerge that people who were successful and happy could manage their own emotions, and were emotionally regulated, and were actually good with reading other people's emotions and responding appropriately to those things. And this was called EQ, or emotional intelligence, emotional quotient. And I think we all could agree that this is a pretty important factor for success and happiness as well. But if you really start looking at the totality of the research in this realm, you start to see a couple of things. And I want to frame this up this way. You start to see that even these 2 things are not enough. And it seems, to my reading of the research anyway, when I look across the totality of research, what I see is that happiness is not something that can necessarily be gained and maintained over the long run. It is something that you feel at times. It is dependent on a particular context. It is a state of being in response to what's going on around you. And happiness is something that cannot be maintained over the long run. It's a lot like a hamster wheel. When the hamster gets on the wheel and runs, happiness is generated. And then when it stops running, happiness goes away. This is just a way of saying that it's context dependent in a sense. So maybe happiness isn't necessarily the thing we should really be measuring when we think about our success. Maybe we want to measure something that's a little bit more lasting. And fulfillment seems to be the emotional state that takes into account happiness and contentment and joy, but has a level of achievement sort of built into it. We know from Martin Seligman's work, he's the father of happiness psychology, and some of his models, that achievement for achievement's sake is a very big piece of fulfillment and happiness for humans. And so that fulfillment has this sort of idea that I set out to achieve something that I'm able to achieve. And that oftentimes we're happiest or most fulfilled when we set out to achieve something or be something, not just for ourselves, but something to enhance the world, to create something to make the world better. This is the way we feel that we matter and make a difference. And when you look at the totality of the research in this realm, there seems to be three areas that are very important that don't have anything to do with IQ and EQ, intelligence quotient and emotional quotient, but have a lot to do with our belief in self. This would be the first thing. Do we believe that we are good enough? And the second thing would be, do other people around us see us as people who are good enough, worthy, valuable? And perhaps most important, can we see trials, tribulations, and traumas and difficulties and failures as growth enhancing things that grow us, not obstacles, but stepping stones to help us learn, grow, and get better so that we can grow ourselves and evolve the world? These three things, the belief in self, the belief others have in us, and our ability to be resilient and take failures and fears and obstacles and traumas and turn them into learning opportunities, along with our intelligence and our emotional quotient, seem to be more in line with what helps us live great lives of humans and reach that quintessential emotional state of fulfillment, so that when we are on our deathbeds, we can have a sense of pride about what we accomplished in the world and feel like we did indeed matter and that we did indeed make a difference to the world in a way that went beyond our own ego and family and spread to the wider population. This is sort of what we would say, and what the research actually points to about humans and happiness. It's ironic that we think that we will achieve happiness, fulfillment, contentment, joy by just looking out for ourselves. But it is very clear that this is not actually how it works, that we feel more happy, content, joyful, and fulfilled when we do something of value beyond ourselves, something for the world as a whole. The other thing to understand about this is this idea in the research that has become pretty clear. It used to be thought that happy people it used to be thought that successful people rather became happy. And that if you had some level of success, you would then develop some happiness. What we now know is that it probably works the other way around. Maybe it works both ways, but we also know that happy people seem to be the most successful people. So there's this chicken and egg problem. It seems, based on the research, that the happiest people end up being the most successful people. The people who feel most fulfilled from the beginning end up being the most fulfilled and successful in the end. And so this turns things on their head a little bit, because a lot of people would have seen things as, well, first I have to develop a degree of success and fulfillment, and then I can have happiness and contentment and joy. And it looks like this works more powerfully in the other direction. If there's a way that I can become happy and fulfilled and have contentment and joy, this is more likely to help me develop some level of success and fulfillment. And this is what I want to talk to you about today, because there's a surprising aspect of this when we talk about the next level human journey and how to cultivate this. How do we become happy and fulfilled prior to being successful, so that when we get that success, we can feel even more happy and fulfilled? We know a lot of people, don't we, that seem to have lots of success, but are not happy and fulfilled. And so this also shows us that perhaps success is not, and productivity is not, the means to achieve these things, but we should work to achieve these things first. Now, how would we do that? Well, the research is really interesting on this, because it essentially says that there are certain experiences, qualities of experience and feeling, that when we engage in these things, we tend to elevate ourselves. We tend to grow. We tend to start to see ourselves as competent and confident. And we begin to have this feed forward mechanism that allows us to see ourselves as productive and grateful, and allows us to begin to live a happy, fulfilled life, so that we then can feel more successful. And you might say to yourself, that's really interesting, Jade. So you mean to tell me that there are certain experiences that I can have in the world that do this for me? And that's exactly what I'm saying. In fact, what I'm saying is the research points to the idea that the quality of your experiences determine the quality of your life, and the way you perceive these experiences determine the quality of your life. Now, this creates a problem, because if you look at today's day and age, what is also being shown is that the quality of our experiences are being degraded. Now, you might say, well, why is this? And we're going to go through this, because what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how to create experiences. And this is part of what I do when you come and people come and join me on my journey experiences through the next level human education. One of the most popular things I do is something called the journey, where you come and you explore this new human that you want to be through experiences, and rewriting old stories and having experiences that narrate brand new stories more in line with who you want to be. So it's our experiences that determine who we are and who we will become. Remember, I oftentimes say this, our brain is watching us all of the time. It watches and judges us the same way we watch and judge other people. In fact, it does so more harshly. So when you say you want to be a thing, and then you end up acting, thinking, and behaving in different ways, your brain laughs at you and just basically does not take you seriously, and therefore won't get on board. This is why I oftentimes say faking it until you make it is the wrong way to look at this. Faking means that when people are watching you, you're doing the thing. But as soon as you're alone, you're not doing it anymore. Well, we just talked about the idea that the brain is watching you, whether you're in the public eye or not. It's most importantly watching you when you're alone. And so you don't want to fake it until you make it. You want to do what I have coined, be it until you see it. Be it until you see it means that I am being the thing when people are watching. And I am most importantly, more urgently, being the thing when no one is watching at all. Now, what is being? Being is an alignment in thinking, feeling, and action. When you are aligned in thinking, feeling, and action, you are being it. And the best way to be something is simply to act it out, very much like a method actor. Now, this means that when you create experiences and you do things in life, you want them to be in alignment with the kind of human you want to be. If you want to be a next level human, you want the experiences that you curate and create for yourself to be next level in their orientation. They need to grow you in some way. Now, most of our experiences do not do this for several reasons. First of all, we're no longer having experiences to the degree that we once did, and the quality of our experiences are falling. For example, several aspects here from the research tell us an awful lot about what is going on with us. First of all, we're making more money. And you might say to yourself, well, I don't know about that, Jade. I'm not making more money. But in general, the world is becoming more and more wealthy. Even people who are the poorest among us have less poverty than in years past. So people in the working world, at least, are making more money per unit hour. And one of the things that this does is it forces us to, let's say you're making 50 cents an hour versus $500 an hour. Well, if you're making $500 an hour, you might decide to take that extra hour to work rather than go watch a soccer game or something like that. Versus if you're making 50 cents an hour, you might say, well, I'm not making that much per hour anyway. I will spend this 50 cents that I would have made on having an experience like watching a soccer match with friends or something like that. And so the fact that we are earning more and productivity is becoming such an important aspect of our lives, and that many of us wear busyness like a badge of honor, we oftentimes are working instead of taking the leisurely recovering, repairing at a, sort of this nice, relaxing R&R types of activities to have experiences that might grow us. We're often working instead. Not to mention, we have information coming at us through our devices constantly. So we're inundated with more and more information. This causes us to multitask more and more. And some research suggests we are spending up to 60 to 70% of our free time immersed in devices. And what's interesting is we actually do have more free time. Research tells us that as well. We have more free time than we ever have had in the history of work. Yet most of that free time is being drawn away from things that don't give us growth and enhance us and our experiences, that have our nose into a device and or a TV. And so tech is certainly making us have a little bit more time, and we're making more money, but this time is being used up through that same tech. And we're spending an awful lot of time having low-level, non-enhancing experiences by engaging with our devices. As a result of that, we go outside less and less. And we know through the science of nature study, biophilia, this idea of love of nature, that nature sounds, green settings, spending time in the elements, makes us feel more happy, connected, and fulfilled. And yet we are doing less and less of that. And when we do have experiences and we do take vacations, oftentimes what we do is we simply go to another place, and at that place get on the same devices, eat the same foods, and we want these experiences to be very similar so we feel safe and secure. But how can we grow as humans through experience if we are constantly creating experiences that don't cause us to grow and elevate ourselves? And so the idea that I'm presenting here is that we need to begin looking at ourselves if we want to live good, growth-oriented, next-level human lives. We want to begin to understand that it is the experiences of life that make life worth living, and that these experiences are the very things that build competence, that build confidence, that help us elevate, that help us grow in a way that makes us matter and helps us make a difference. And that it is not our emotional quotient or our intelligence quotient that makes the biggest difference. It is our belief in self, the belief others have in us, and most importantly, our ability to see trials, tribulations, challenges, failures, and fears as stepping stones. Now imagine if we could instead take the current situation that we live in, these very low quality experiences that are not growing us and are oftentimes degrading us and making us feel depressed, disconnected, dehumanized in a sense, making us feel like we are not making a difference and mattering, and creating experiences that matter, make a difference for us, and help us grow ourselves and evolve the world. Remember, the prime directive of a next level human is someone who grows themselves so that they can do something of positive benefit that evolves the world. Next level humans look after themselves as a priority while simultaneously taking into consideration others and doing for them as well. A base level human only takes care of self. A culture level human only cares about the group they're a member of. A next level human does both simultaneously, takes care of self while simultaneously considering and taking care of others as well. So how do we create these experiences that help us matter and make a difference? Well, these experiences have been studied, and I'm going to give you an acronym that I use to help understand how to construct these experiences. Now, whenever you have an experience or go on a vacation, the idea is that you want to explore, you want to feel, you want to immerse yourself in this experience. So this acronym goes by the E.X.P.L.O.R.E acronym, E.X.P.L.O.R.E. When you create these experiences that are going to elevate and grow you so that you can positively contribute to the evolution of everyone else around you, you want to remember the science behind creating experiences. And the science is built into this acronym, E.X.P.L.O.R.E. So let's go through this acronym. Now, the first E in the E.X.P.L.O.R.E acronym is the idea that experiences need to be engaging. Now, this word engaging is interesting, right? Engaging means that you must stay focused. And things that make you stay focused are things that are a bit challenging. They're a bit intense. They're not easy necessarily. You can't do them with your eyes closed. You have to be engaged. They have to have a degree of challenge built into them. And we all know that without something that is engaging, pushing you, challenging you, you're not going to necessarily grow and pay attention. Let me interrupt the show just for a few minutes because I want to tell you about one of our sponsors, E.P.L.O.R.E. One of the questions I get all of the time, one of the services that you are asking me for constantly is hormone replacement therapy. Women going through menopause, women going through perimenopause, women in postmenopause, women under stressful situations who are dealing with low sex hormone levels, estrogen and progesterone, are constantly asking me about progesterone therapy or estrogen and progesterone therapy. And men, same thing, constantly asking me about testosterone replacement therapy. Plenty of you, many of you, always asking, Jade, can you prescribe me hormones? I need testosterone if you're a man, or I need estrogen and progesterone or testosterone if you're a woman. And I always have to say that I am no longer seeing patients in this way because my educational duties are keeping me so busy. And this is where E.P.L.O.R.E comes in. I have been looking for a company that does bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, and that is critically important. If you're going to be doing HRT or TRT, HRT being hormone replacement therapy for women, TRT being testosterone replacement therapy for men, if you are going to do these therapies, you want the bioidentical hormones. You want the hormones that your body makes naturally, that your body can recognize, that is no different from the hormones your body would make if you were making adequate levels. Bioidentical hormone replacement therapy does just this. And E.P.L.O.R.E is a company that I am now using for my own testosterone replacement needs and have been super impressed with the way that they have structured their business model. And so I am now bringing this service to you through my partnership with E.P.L.O.R.E. Essentially, the way this works is you go online, you make an appointment with E.P.L.O.R.E. E.P.L.O.R.E. gets a doctor with you on a Zoom call. They go through your whole case. They go through your blood labs. They then prescribe your hormones directly to you, and you can get those hormones wherever you are. You do not have to go to a clinic near you. All you need is to have an internet access point, and you can meet with an expert in bioidentical hormone replacement therapy and get those prescriptions. Now you can see why this is so powerful, can't you? Because this is something that so many of us need and can benefit from for our aging needs, our sexual health needs. These things have profound impact on mood, hair, skin, erections, libido, you name it. These things do everything for our metabolic health and vitality. So I am incredibly excited to bring Evolve Telemed to you. Now, the link that you go to is drjade.com/hormones. drjade.com/hormones. This will bring you to the Evolve Telemed portal. If you use the code NEXTLEVEL, you will get a discount on checkout for your first patient visit. I'm very excited to be able to bring this to you, and I hope you will use Evolve Telemed. I know you're going to find it extremely powerful to move your hormone needs over to them. Check them out, Evolve Telemed. Use the link drjade.com/hormones. drjade.com/hormones for Evolve Telemed. And let's get back to the show. So when you're building an experience or a vacation or something that you're going to do, you want to make sure this thing is engaging you in a way that is challenging you and creating an experience that forces you to pay attention and to grow. Now, the X in this E.X.P.L.O.R.E acronym is an important concept that goes right along with engaging. And X stands for the X factor, meaning that this should be something that is out of the ordinary, something that is novel and new, something that is different. If you always go to Hawaii and go to a nice resort at the same beach and eat the same foods and just essentially stay on the premises of that particular property, you're not necessarily going to have a new, different, out of the ordinary experience. The X factor isn't there. Not to mention the engaging, challenging aspect isn't there. And so instead, what you'd want to do is go to Hawaii, perhaps stay at the same resort, but plan to do some things that will get you lost and explore. Maybe you rent a car and you just decide, I'm going to drive around the island. I'm going to find a unique hike. I'm going to find a different beach. I'm going to interact with different people. I'm going to perhaps, write out a bunch of different activities that I might want to do, perhaps snorkeling, surfing, hiking, seeing a volcano. It's going bird watching, and I'm going to pull one of those out of a hat so that it's an X factor, and I'm going to go do that day. So I create an experience that is novel, that is new, and I do it, and I think about these experiences from the engagement factor. Obviously, if you're going snorkeling, you're going to be engaged, especially if you haven't done it before. If you're going hiking, you're going to have to watch where you put your feet. You're going to be immersed in nature. So these are something, when you create an experience, you should be thinking about something that is new and novel, an X factor, a means of which you're exploring. That's another way to think about the X, exploring and engaging. These are the first two aspects of this acronym. E for engaging, X for X factor, something new, novel, different, something that causes you to explore things in a different way. Now, the P is something you want an experience that is penetrating. Now, what do I mean by penetrating? For something to penetrate, it means it gets inside of you. It penetrates your ethos in a sense. It changes the way you look at the world. It changes you from the inside out. If you have a penetrating experience, it is an experience that is going to change your perception. It's going to change the stories you tell yourself, right? It's going to somehow make you more brave. It's going to somehow make you more open-minded. It's going to penetrate you in a way where you go, wow, I've never thought of it that way. Or I feel like this has allowed me to see myself and the world in a completely different way. So this experience should be engaging. It should be exploratory and have this unknown X factor. And it should be deeply penetrating to your psyche in a way that changes you, and preferably changes you in the direction that you seek to be, that is in alignment with your new superhero, next level human self, and not your old dysfunctional self. So the E, X, and P of the E.X.P.L.O.R.E acronym are, it should be engaging / challenging. It should be have an X factor to it, something new and different and novel. And it should be deeply penetrating to your psyche so that when you complete this experience, you are changed in some fundamental way from the inside out. Now, the L and the O of the Explore acronym have a lot to do with what science tells us about technology and staying indoors. These experiences should be low tech. Wherever possible, you should be not engaging with your phone. You should be having the experience instead of taking a video or a picture of the experience. So you want this to be low tech. You also want it to be outside. So the L and the O of the Explore acronym, these experiences don't always have to be low tech and outside, but the best experiences, the ones that grow us, the ones that lead towards happiness and fulfillment and contentment and joy, are the ones that tend to be low tech and done outside in nature. And this is very clear in the research on these aspects of creating experiences that grow us. Also, the R of the Explore acronym is relational, done with others. Whenever you have an experience and that experience is done with others, you elevate the experience. You bond to each other. We humans are not islands unto ourselves. We are social creatures at best. We are pack animals. We act in relation to other people. We have an epidemic of loneliness. About 1 in 5 individuals in the Western world have severe loneliness, and there is a loneliness epidemic. If you want to know, loneliness kills more people than cigarettes, than alcohol, and even cancer. In fact, we know that loneliness is perhaps the greatest thing that harms our health. And that when you hear about blue zones and things like that, these long-lived people, they tend to have very close-knit communities. And the fact that they are the opposite of lonely and that they feel like they belong and have a tribe is really by some of us viewed as the primary reason why these blue zone people live so long. It's not because of what they eat or how they move. It's because they are engaged and connected. And so when you create experiences with other people where possible. So the Explore acronym, E for engaging, X for X factor, P for penetrating, L for low tech, O for outside, R for relational with other people, and finally, and perhaps most importantly, E for enriching. This experience should enrich you in some way. And this is different than penetrating. Penetration basically just means it's inside you now. It's changed the way you see the world. Enriching means you've learned something that allows you to interact with the world in a different way and allows you to tell a story to other people that will enrich them as well. These experiences should be enriching to you. And when you tell the story and share your experiences and interact with the world after these experiences, you should be understanding that you are an example and an experience for the world. Everyone who interacts with you, you're an example for their own behavior. They watch to see how you behave and you influence their behavior by the way you behave. And you bring an energetic experience to them, an uplifting experience or a experience that is more degrading and down. And so what we want to do is we want to enrich people. Remember, the 3 imperatives of the next level human are to learn, to teach, and to love. And these experiences should be enriching so that you can learn from them, and also enriching for others that you can teach from them as well. And so the idea here is to start creating experiences in your life that generate these science-based attributes of experience, engaging experiences that have an X factor, that penetrate deeply into the psyche, that are low tech, outside, relational with other people, and enriching in a way that really allows you to learn from these experiences and teach from these experiences. And when you begin to look at your experiences in this way, you can begin to create experiences everywhere you go. For example, you can literally create an experience by going to just the coffee shop. So think about this. Let's walk through the Explore acronym with just a visit to your local coffee shop. How can going to the local coffee shop be engaging? Well, it can be engaging by playing a little game. Maybe you put into a hat something that you're going to do at this coffee shop. Maybe it says you're going to, you write down, I'm going to buy someone a coffee. I'm going to give somebody a compliment. I'm going to get a different coffee. I'm going to whatever it is. And you put these into a hat. And let's say you pull out, I'm going to give somebody a compliment. This already has an engaging aspect to it. And the X factor aspect was already just built in to this. And of course, you don't have to put these in a hat. You can literally just decide spur of the moment. You could say something like, the first person who talks to me or smiles at me or makes eye contact with me, I'm going to engage with. This creates that engaging X factor right off the bat, allows you to be intentional and paying attention, right? And of course, what will then happen is you begin to engage with this person in a way. And what you're looking for is a way to connect. You want to hear people's stories. These stories are what penetrate us the most when we tell them and when we listen to them. And so what you want to do is you want to share your story with somebody or hear their story. Not just talk about the weather, but ask them, what do you do for a living? What brings you to the coffee shop? This and that. What are you getting? What kind of coffee do you like? You connect with them. You hear their story. You ask questions that allow you to learn something, to see the world differently. And of course, you do this without being on your phone. You won't be standing in line looking at your phone. Instead, you'll be standing in line trying to engage with other people. So this means it's low tech. Now, of course, this won't be outside because you're in a coffee shop. It doesn't always have to be outside. It's relational because you're including people in this experience. And it hopefully will be enriching because you're seeking to either learn and or teach in the process. So this can be done simply by waiting in line at a coffee shop. It also can be done when you're thinking about your vacations, right? I'm going down to Costa Rica here soon. So I can simply go sit at the house, do what I always do, stay on my phone, or I can build in, because I'm going to do some of that for sure, but I can also build in perhaps every other day, I can create an experience. So one of the things I'm doing that's going to be engaging and an X factor is I'm going to be signing up for surf lessons. Now, I don't necessarily like the ocean. I'm a little bit afraid of the ocean. That means I'm going to be engaged and paying attention. I've also never surfed before. It's going to be something physical. That's going to make me be engaged. The X factor is the fact that I've never done it. It's novel. It's different. Now, will this be penetrating for me? Certainly it will, won't it? Because I will have to address some of my fears around this. I will have to be in a position where I now understand in a very different way how to read waves and pay attention to waves. I will have to listen to my instructor. I will be seeing the ocean in a very different way than I've ever seen the ocean, simply by the nature of all I've ever done is swim in the ocean or taking a boat in the ocean. I've never tried to surf. And so by its very nature, this experience I'm creating is going to be penetrating. Is it going to be low tech? Certainly, I'm not going to have my phone with me and trying to take a picture and a video as I'm on the surfboard. And I'm going to be aware of the fact that I just want to enjoy this experience and don't need to get a whole bunch of videos and pictures to share on social media. The fact that I'm surfing, it will be outside in the ocean. You see, it'll be relational. Me, my girlfriend, maybe some family members, and the other people out there surfing, and my instructor. And of course, this will be enriching. I will learn something new, and I will be able to perhaps teach something new. Either maybe I could teach someone how to surf, but more importantly, I can teach people some of the things that I learned about a beginning surfer. I could even teach my instructor something about being new and sharing with them my experience so they can understand and remember, oh, here's what it's like to be a beginner at this, and give them some, positive, constructive feedback. I can also plan an excursion to one of the mountains, up in the mountains of Costa Rica. I can create experiences that make a difference everywhere I go, and that these experiences are always either degrading me or not helping me grow as a human, or they are, and that experiences are the primary way that we grow. And we now have the science of understanding this. Now, one of the things I want to do is recommend a book to you because I just started reading a book on this. And this book, and I'm going to look at the title just so I don't miss it, is it's by James Wallman, and it's called Time and How to Spend It. And what's really interesting about this is, you know how you sometimes will come across a book that you've been working on, sort of formulating your ideas and reading all this research, how experiences grow us. And I'm currently building an app and have been for some time on the Next Level Human, a way of creating experiences that grow us. I run a journey event where people come and it's an experience that grows people. And I've been immersed in this world of how do we use experiences to grow. And then I just found this book called Time and How to Spend It by James Wallman that goes through a lot of the science I just explained to you. And he actually has his own acronym that goes through many of the elements that I just shared with you in the E.X.P.L.O.R.E acronym. His acronym goes by the acronym STORIES, but has a lot of elements within that story acronym that the E.X.P.L.O.R.E acronym has. For example, his S in his STORIES acronym has to do with having experiences that allow us to live a story and tell a story. The T is these experiences should be transformational in some way. The O is that they should be outside and offline. So you see that's my low tech and outside. The R is that it should be relational. So we share that in our acronyms. The I is it should be something intense. That is my engaging and X factor. And the S has to do with status. And I didn't really get this aspect of him, but it does have an awful lot to do with, sort of learning and teaching, which is my enriching. And so my E.X.P.L.O.R.E acronym lines up very well with James Wallman and his STORIES acronym. And this book is a great book if you really love this idea of understanding how experiences grow us and how they are the key to success and becoming content, happy, fulfilled, joyful prior to success. And those are the major reasons why successful people become successful, because they develop a happy, content, joyful, fulfilled way of being that then translates into more success in their lives rather than the other way around. James Wallman covers a lot of this in his book. I have not completed the book, but it did remind me that I had this podcast to do, and I wanted to do it. And then I also wanted to point to this book because I'm loving this book so far because it so closely relates to some of my work in this realm. And so check out the book by James Wallman, Time and How to Spend It, and start to begin to create experiences that are going to elevate you. And also, please consider joining one of my journey events. These are very small, intimate events, usually done at my house or in a small venue, that are a complete immersion in this E.X.P.L.O.R.E framework, allowing you to let go of some of the pains and trials and tribulations and traumas of your past and the old you, who you think you are, to write a new story of who you are to become. And the E.X.P.L.O.R.E acronym that I outlined here is heavily engaged in this process. We use psychedelic microdosing at times. We use fasting and walking to sort of give you that engaging, sort of X factor and that penetrating sort of paying close attention. It is low tech. We don't use phones. We use journals, pen to paper. We are outside a lot, walking and interacting with people. And this is done in groups and alone. So it's very relational. And it is incredibly enriching because it teaches you how to become your best self. These are the next level human journeys. And you can find them on my website at jadeteta.com. And let me just make sure I get the URL correct for you. So if you go to my website, jadeteta.com/journey, jadeteta.com/journey. We have several coming up. These are events that I run This is the major way you can get involved with my self-development work. It is a complete education in rewriting our stories, getting in touch with our pain, letting go of these traumatic events in our lives, and generating a new way of looking at the world so that we can become our next level human selves. jteta.com/journey. Please check it out. Look forward to seeing you there soon. And I appreciate you hanging out on the podcast with me today. And I will see you next time.
You have been listening to the Next Level Human podcast with Dr. Jade Teta. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you subscribe and consider leaving a review. You make the biggest difference when you pass on your lessons and inspire others. That's why reviews like this are so powerful. Your words may be the only ones that resonate for someone else. Please remember the information in this podcast is for educational purposes only. Always consult your personal physician or therapist before making any lifestyle changes. And finally, thank you for who you are in the world and the difference you make.